This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello, welcome to this special coverage on CGTN, live from Beijing. I'm Pandong. The conference on dialogue of Asian civilizations will begin in about 30 minutes in Beijing on Wednesday. The meeting will focus on the exchange and mutual learning of Asian civilizations. More than 2,000 government officials and representatives of various circles from 47 Asian countries will be present. During Wednesday morning's opening ceremony, Chinese President Xi Jinping, the Director General of UNESCO Audrey Azoulay, and leaders from 5 other nations will attend and deliver keynote speeches. President Xi Jinping will also attend the Asian Cultural Carnival on Wednesday night. Of course, CGTN will bring you full coverage on all those events throughout the day. So first things first, let's talk about the opening ceremony of this conference. And for more on that, let's cross live to our reporter Zhou Ying at the conference venue and our reporter Cui Huiyao at the conference's media center. Let me start with you, Zhou Ying. What can we expect from this morning's events?
Hello there, Pandong. Well, conflicts were dialogue, communication were confrontation. This way to address the relations between the different civilizations of modern world has been concerning the future and fate of humanization. And that is why this conference focusing on the Asian civilization has grabbed the world's attention. And in the opening ceremony, which as you just said, that will be kicked off in about 30 minutes or so, Chinese President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech in which he is expected to address such important issues as strengthening the exchanges and mutual learning among different civilizations, as well as how the Asian countries could further deepen cooperation in education, science and technologies, tourism, health, etc., to further facilitate the multifaceted people-to-people exchanges. And moreover, there's more to come in the afternoon. 6 parallel sub-forums will be held here at the National Convention Center, focusing on the governance, cultural diversity, cultural preservation, and youth obligations, etc. And moreover, the Asian Cultural Carnival and the Asian Civilization Week, which involves more than 110 activities, will demonstrate the diversity and the charm of Asian civilization. And at Pandong, I think for many people, civilization may seem to be a concept that is too far away to touch upon. However, many experts that I talked to said it is actually about or existed in almost every aspect of our daily lives. It could be about what you eat, what you speak, what you read, and even more. And it doesn't matter, whether the Chinese people, they like to drink this kind of pu'er tea, or the Japanese, they like to drink the green tea powder, or many of the Vietnamese people, they are passionate coffee drinkers who like to use this kind of coffee filter to drink their coffee. And I think what really matters is that we know how to appreciate it and respect each other's culture. And just as President Xi Jinping said during his visit to Belgium a couple of years ago, that to him, the moderate tea drinker and the passionate beer lover represents 2 ways of understanding life and knowing the world. And to him, he found out equally rewarding. I think this is why this conference is a great opportunity to build the bridges for cultural exchanges as well as mutual learning. Back to the studio, Pandong.
Well, a great opportunity and a lot to expect indeed. So having said that, Huiyao, you're at the media center of this conference. What kind of vibe you've been getting from there?
Hi there, Pandon. I'm right now at the media center of the CDAC, one of the nearly 3,000 journalists from China and abroad going to cover this week-long diplomatic event. I want to first to show you the logo of this year's main event. The pattern of the logo actually resembles a flower with 6 petals. And as you can see, the hand-in-hand humans are embedded in the logo. They actually symbolize the communication between different cultures. And just look at how colorful it is. It shows you the richness of different civilizations in Asia. And 2 weeks ago, this venue has hosted the second Belt and Road Forum, which I also covered. Many of the discussions back then was about laying out a concrete roadmap for BRI projects and finding a path to common prosperity. And 2 weeks later, we are here to discuss how we can bridge different civilizations of Asia and better connecting with the world. And comparing these two events, I think the central message is the same. We are at a time of rising unilateralism, and we need more solidarity, and we need to take concerted actions. And because the challenges are very real, for example, global warming, epidemics, overpopulation, just to name a few. I want to get into the example of China and India, two of the fastest growing nations in Asia, both with civilizations of over 4,000 years. How can we move ahead together? Well, the answer is to learn from our past and use our wisdom to overcome some of the problems we're having today. And this could be done through a variety of ways, such as through cultural exchanges. Having more people from China going to India, more people from India coming to China, and more films going both ways, and more cultural ambassadors like Amir Khan, who's very popular in China right now. So by hosting this conference, China is really taking the leadership in bringing countries together, celebrating our distinctive cultures, and trying to form a thriving and happy community. And really, there's no better way to do that than through dialogues. Back to you.
Thank you very much, our reporter Chu Huihao and our reporter Zhou Yun, following the event very closely in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan hosted a banquet on Tuesday evening for world leaders and guests attending the conference in Beijing. Xi Jinping told his guests the conference would follow the general trend of cooperation and development in Asia and live up to expectations. Xi Jinping noted the importance of Asia as a birthplace of human civilization and said societies on the continent had interacted against a backdrop of openness, grown together thanks to inclusiveness and developed through innovation. He said the conference would serve as a platform for common development. President Xi Jinping has shared his views on world civilizations on numerous occasions. His theory of a shared destiny has been frequently mentioned in international events and even recorded in UN documents. Victor Ning has more on that.
5 years ago, President Xi delivered a speech in Moscow during a state visit to Russia. He introduced the idea of a shared destiny and has been promoting it since then.
人类生活在同一地球村里，生活在历史和现实交汇的同一时空里，越来越成为你中有我，我中有你的命运共同体。人类命运共同体，顾名思义，就是每个民族、每个国家的前途命运都紧紧联系在一起，应该风雨同舟，荣辱与共。
The 19th CPC National Congress insisted upon peaceful development. The idea of a shared destiny has since been strengthened and was also recorded in official documents of the United Nations.
我希望各国人民同心协力，携手前行，努力构建人类命运共同体，共创和平、安宁、繁荣、开放。 美丽的亚洲和世界。
For years, there have been voices of so-called clashes of civilizations and civilization superiority. China, a country with a history of 5,000 years, is now proposing something different.
我认为国际社会要从伙伴关系、安全格局、经济发展、文明交流、生态建设等方面。 做出努力。我们要倡导绿色、低碳、循环、可持续的生产生活方式，平衡推进2030可持续发展议程。
President Xi has often expressed his wish for peaceful development and win-win cooperation. China says it seeks to develop shared knowledge and an understanding of the world by highlighting the importance of harmonious coexistence and respecting differences.
For more insight into that, we're joined in the studio by Professor Liu Youfa, former Vice President of the China Institute of International Studies, and Professor David Bartosz from Beijing Foreign Studies University. Well, gentlemen, let's talk about what we just heard. A community of shared future for mankind and civilizations. What do you make of the link? And how does that make sense to common people like us?
Well, I think it's very easy to outreach it to all of us. From what I understand, President Xi Jinping has frequently stressed on the principles of equality, mutual understanding, dialogues, and inclusiveness. I think these are the principles we Asian countries should stick to in promoting the common development. From what I can see, the term equality is the precondition for the common development. And
also for dialogue.
For dialogues. For dialogues is the foundation. And then inclusiveness is the bottom line, which means no civilization can self-claim to be superior than any other civilizations. No culture should be superior than any other cultures. The civilization should not be the political tool to push for the unilateral national strategies or policies, so to speak.
What's your take from a Western perspective, Professor?
I think these four terms of development, equality, mutual learning, dialogue, and inclusiveness, they do not only hold true for the Asian region, but I think they should be applied to the whole world in the long run. But the development has to start somewhere, and I think it is kind of natural that the development starts in Asia today, and also that this event is hosted by the Chinese government, because Chinese civilization has thousands of years of history by applying these methods. And I think equality for me means respect.
Yes.
It could be translated into respect. You need to have respect for each other to start to learn from each other. And mutual learning leads to true dialogue. True dialogue means the unity of two. That's a Greek word, by the way, dialogos. It's the unity of two. And of course, the mind of two sides, or even more sides in this context, of course, it's many more Asian civilizations, it's not just two, put together will boost the development. There's more ideas, there's new perspectives we can share, and we can absorb what is useful. Also, from each civilization can absorb from other civilizations what is most useful, and this of course leads to inclusiveness. So I would pretty much agree that's a developmental path. It's also a causal chain. It's a causal chain of development, and China has this history from the times of Yan Huang to fuse, and the Confucian tradition always has been very open. For example, it's not just Confucian tradition in China, but Confucius says, isn't it pleasant to have friends coming from far away, and to learn, the emphasis on learning, mutual learning. I think this is why I think China is the natural place, so to speak, to start this new development.
So you think dialogues, exchanges between mutual learning between different civilizations is the world really needs, rather than the so-called clashes of civilizations and do this comparison to reach a judgment that who's better, who's not.
That's not helpful. The whole term is not helpful. I mean, this is a rational, the whole idea of integration, inclusiveness is the only rational path for the future development of the families of civilizations. There is no other way. So I think this whole initiative here to bring together the civilizations of Asia is most rational, because we have so many global problems. We can only address them if we work together, like environmental problems, pandemics, economic problems, overpopulation. All these problems, we will only be able to solve them if we know each other, if we respect each other, understanding, and if we reach inclusiveness. Inclusiveness doesn't mean to make even everything. It's the unity in plurality, or in multiplicity, right? But it's a unity which is a communication It's an organism of communication of civilizations.
Right, and also joint actions in
Joint
reality.
Joint action.
Yeah, for more insight, let's get
important.
more
Yeah,
voices from around Asia, gentlemen. Now, we're joined by Dr. Azmi Hassan, a senior political analyst in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Professor Madhav Das Nalapat, the UNESCO Peace Chair at Manipur University. Let me start with you, Dr. Hassan. As we just mentioned, Asia is an important birthplace of human civilization. Now, this very conference is the first of its kind. What kind of new prospect do you think it will usher in?
Yeah, it's true that Asian civilization is called the cradle of civilization, of the world civilization. Interesting that President Xi mentioned a few times regarding shared destiny, and I think that is what Asian civilization is all about. It's not about social or how do we live, but it's also about science and technology. It's about development, and I think the Silk Road, the original Silk Road, is a clear example. Is what is ASEAN civilization is all about. It's not about sharing trade between East and West. It is also sharing science and technology. It's also sharing about civilization, that how we can, I would say, learn from each other. So from this conference, I had high hopes that all civilization, ASEAN, the West civilization, can learn from each other so that we can understand how the other people think. Regarding development in Asia, I think ASEAN civilization can spur the development in Asia and also throughout the other global. Beijing?
Well, Professor Nalapat, you are the UNESCO Peace Chair at Manipur University. We know that UNESCO is cooperating with China to organize the parallel panel in sync with this conference on the theme of safeguarding the diversity of Asian civilizations. Do you think there is a sense of urgency in this very topic?
Well, I'd like to say that UNESCO has focused a lot throughout the world on identifying cultural treasures, on identifying the different elements which make the human civilization, the combined human civilization, such a tremendous gift to humanity. UNESCO has done tremendous work in this. Here I would like to say this is a very welcome initiative on the part of President Xi Jinping. In 1949, it was said that China has stood up. Today, anybody who comes to China can say China has stood up and China is standing tall. And it is good that China, frankly, is taking the initiative in this, because we need a world where we don't have confrontation, we have conciliation. We need a world where countries can make progress not through conquest but through cooperation. That is the way forward. The way of the 19th century, the way of much of the 20th century was the wrong way. And there has to be a right way in the 21st century. I hope this conference will give a pathway to that right way.
Thank you very much, Professor Madhav Das Nalapat, the UNESCO Peace Chair at Manipur University, and Dr. Azmi Hassan, a senior political analyst in Kuala Lumpur. Now, Wednesday events will see demonstrations of numerous cultures from all around Asia. But how did they come into being on the Earth's largest continent? We try to find out.
It is a land of majestic scenery and abundant resources, home to the greatest number of native species on Earth, and the cradle of some of the world's first civilizations. Asia, the largest continent among the Earth's 7, has also borne witness to some of the planet's earliest human activities. It is where many of the world's ancient civilizations got their start, from the Babylonians of the Fertile Crescent to the Indus River Valley civilization, source of today's South Asian cultures, and of course, China. Many of the world's great religions also find their origins in this vast landmass, from Buddhism and Islam to Hinduism and Christianity. Today, Asia is home to over 4 billion people. Asians, during their 2 million years of habitation on this land, have made great contributions to the knowledge of mankind in the fields of economies, science, and art. Asia was the center of trade before the First Industrial Revolution. Persian, Turkish, Arab, and Chinese merchants plied the ancient Silk Road for centuries before the first batch of Western goods arrived on ships. Today, the trade volume of Asian countries takes nearly 40% of the world's total. In the science realm, the ancient Sumerians invented the oldest known form of writing, cuneiform script. The Babylonians compiled the Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest and most complete written legal codes. Indians invented numbers, which were later brought to Europe by Arab merchants. China invented the compass, gunpowder, paper, and printing. Asia has given rise to nearly 1,000 indigenous ethnic groups, who have created various art forms that have found worldwide acclaim. Music, dancing, painting, sculpture, and poems. The Asian arts are a crucial component in the precious tapestry of human culture. The name Asia began as a variation of the ancient Phoenician word Asu, meaning the land of sunrise. Today, with some of the world's most dynamic economies and vibrant cultures, Asia continues to harbor opportunities and hope for all its people.
Now, our reporter Hona introduces some intangible cultural heritages of Asia.
With a piece of dramatic Chinese music, an actor in a brightly colored costume wearing a vivid facial mask changes the pattern of the mask in a blink of an eye. You cannot believe your eyes and wait to figure out what's happening. The pattern switches again in almost no time at all, just like magic. This is what you'll find and see in a typical tea house or theater in southwestern China's Sichuan province. Face changing is a traditional and unique aspect of Sichuan opera that has a history of around 300 years. Considered a closely guarded treasure, the Chinese art form continues to keep its mysteries under wraps. Although only a few hundred people practice it, they have taken the performance beyond China's borders. And it's no surprise to find the magical art form has captured the hearts of viewers around the world. That is amazing. Cheers and applause can be heard on a Mongolian grassland. In places where nomadic Mongolians live, people hold grand carnival to celebrate their harvest during midsummer of each year. About 700 years ago, soldiers practiced wrestling, horse racing, and archery before and after each major battle. Today, they have been turned into 3 different sports, adopting its current name, Nada. During the festivities, hundreds of local players compete in this breathtaking event. With hundreds of people yelling to support their heroes, the festival nowadays embraces a wide range of ethnic arts, including singing, dancing, and performing, the kind that you can only see on this land alone. What a carnival! Music is another representative element of a culture. A traditional musical instrument on the Korean peninsula is called the gayagam. It is the Korean version of the East Asian horizontal hop scissor. A traditional gayagam has 12 silk strings and 12 immovable bridges. With a press and a plunk, the gayagam produces typical Korean music that would take you on a trip through space and time.
그렇지 그렇고 말고 한 500년 사자는데 웬 성화요
beautiful cultural sceneries there. The opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations will start in a few minutes in Beijing. More than 2,000 government officials and representatives from 47 Asian countries will be present. Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to deliver a keynote speech. CGTN will bring you that event live, so do stay with us on this special coverage. Now let's get more insights from our studio guests. Well, gentlemen, earlier Professor Nalapat from Manipur University just said that some approaches in the 20th century regarding the differences of civilizations is the wrong way. And now we still hear some major countries saying that this is the age of clashes of civilizations, and they're citing the works of Samuel Huntington on this. But let me refer you to the very wording of Huntington himself. In that very book, he said, "In the emerging world of ethnic conflict and civilizational clash, Western belief in the universality of Western culture suffers three problems. It is false, it is immoral, and it is dangerous." Do you think these words still mean something today, Professor Liu?
Well, I think that the latest version by the United States is that, out of the desperation, the current government has just, cooked up a new version called the civilizational, the confrontation. Civilization, let me just rephrase, it just cooked up the concept of the civilization clashes between the white and non-white cultures. This is something typically showing that in the current world, when the whole world is expecting a peaceful environment for the economic development, social progress, and this is something drastically different. When the Asia is expecting for a peaceful environment for the common development, this is the civilizational concept is just going the wrong direction.
So what do you think is the right direction ahead, Professor Bartosz?
I think, first of all, what you just mentioned, this is a wrong concept of difference, because difference is not a negative term at all, because you can only have difference in the sense of diversity if there is an underlying unity. Otherwise you would have separateness. So it's a wrong use of the word. And a difference means plurality, means richness of culture, means the treasury of mankind's civilization. So all these diverse practices, cultural practices, that's the creative, fertile soil which we can draw inspirations from, and where we start to learn from each other. So I think even in the context of maybe interest, right, in politics, we should also use culture to get to know each other, to appreciate our differences, and then try to make our differences complementary.
Yes.
So this is how we get strong in the whole world. Maybe it has to start in Asia, because Asia still nurtures that wisdom. But I think also the so-called West, we also have to differentiate a little bit more. That's one opinion of one theorist, and I don't even think it's a theory. It's kind of announcement from the wrong perspective, because it's not helpful. It doesn't lead anywhere, and it's not moral. It's anti-social, so to speak, in a sense, and it's not feasible for us. It would mean it would lure us to the end of civilizations as a whole. So it's not a question to debate. We only have this one road, this one choice to make, and this is peace.
As we're talking about this, we've got a live footage from the National Convention Center in Beijing. That is the venue for the opening ceremony of the very first Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations. Now, Professor Bartosz, you were saying that there should be a new concept. Do you think there should be a new concept on civilization in the 21st century and beyond? Because there's no definitive definition of the very word civilization, but I believe many people agree that it has something to do with political, scientific, cultural and social advancement of human wisdom and activities.
I see. I would maybe define civilization as forms of self-organization. and there are many.
So it's a systematic view.
It's a systematic view, and civilization always is related to culture, which I define as self-refinement or refinement, getting better at things, progress.
So you think it's a culture-centric idea?
And I think what we have to understand is that no civilization is separate. If we look back at history, we will see there are these learning cycles. So the Europeans during the Age of Enlightenment have learned from Chinese philosophy. Later on, Europeans have learned from Indian philosophers, the great thinkers like Nietzsche. They drew inspirations from Indian philosophy. Beforehand, thinkers like Leibniz, they drew inspirations from China, from Confucian and other thoughts. And later on, Chinese thinkers have drawn inspirations from European philosophers. So it's a big learning cycle, and the same holds true in technology, holds true in the cultivation of life, holds true in the arts. Holds true in science.
Well, talking about this learning circle,
it's
Professor Liu, you are a veteran diplomat. We know that many of the words used in international diplomacy are actually from Kant. And you've been stationed in India for quite some years. How do you see yourself as a middleman of two ancient civilizations, Chinese and Indian?
Let me borrow a quotation from Prime Minister Modi when he was receiving President Xi Jinping in New Delhi. He said this: India and China are the two peoples with one soul, referring to the Buddhism that to which we both claim to have the heritage. Indian culture, or to be specific, the civilization which covers the whole South Asia, literally speaking, is drastically different than the civilization covers the eastern part of Asia, which is represented by China. These two civilizations are both ancient and new civilizations and cultures. We have many things in common. I'm writing a book about the incredible India, through which I try to dedicate a whole chapter to describe how we two cultures can learn from each other. Right at the moment, as the new Indian ambassador to China, says, it is a good time for the two countries to take stock of the anniversary, 70 years of anniversary of the establishment of the bilateral relations, to further promote the cooperation, especially the cooperation in the areas of culture. And for these two nations, the two countries are faced with the same task, which is daunting to say the least. But I think, to my understanding, to my research...
Sorry, you were saying about this task. Are you talking about modernization or...
Modernization, economic development, social progress. But still, in the areas of culture, it's a short part.
This leads to another very curious question. How do you define modernity in this multicultural, multilateral world? Because in the 20th century, many are saying that maybe modernization is defined by the West as westernization. Do you think that's the truth, Professor Bartosz?
Oh, I think having stated this idea of learning cycles, I think we can say that the so-called West, I don't like the term very much, because actually there is no West. There's Europe, there's other nations which have a European cultural background, but they are not the same. They're all very differentiated. So, and I think if we look at our European languages, there are many elements, even in the language, which derive from Asian languages, or even some letters go back to other civilizations. If you do etymological research, so it's hard to say there is the West, which is a monolithic bloc which has influenced all the others. It's just historical. We always have exchanged ideas and developed, and I think the new modernity always means a new epoch, a new era.
Yes.
The term modernos, I think, appears at the end of antiquity in ancient Rome, meaning that there's a change. So modern, the term modern always has to be redefined. And I think this Asian modernity is the modernity of unity and multiplicity, of mutual exchange. It's a new world. It's the newest world. A German philosopher in the 19th century, he foresaw the developments in a certain sense. He says, in the future, Asia will become the newest world. And it's a new, most modern way to think in that direction. Unity.
How do you define modernity in this very moment when the whole world is facing uncertainty?
Yes. The modernity, to my understanding, is not only covering the technological
right
progress.
now, professors, let's go across live to the conference venue where the opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations is about to start, and you'll watch live footage from the National Convention Center in Beijing. This is the opening ceremony of this conference. Chinese President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech, along with the Director General of UNESCO and also leaders from 5 other countries.
Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellencies, Heads of International Organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends. In this lovely season of thriving green, I am delighted to join you, distinguished guests from 47 Asian countries and 5 continents, in a dialogue on deepening exchanges and mutual learning among civilizations. On behalf of the Chinese government and people, and in my own name, I extend sincere congratulations on the opening of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations and a very warm welcome to all of you. The world today is moving toward greater multipolarity, economic globalization, and cultural diversity, and is becoming increasingly information-oriented. All this points to promising prospects for the future. Meanwhile, instability and uncertainties are mounting, and the global challenges faced by humanity are becoming ever more daunting, calling for joint responses from countries around the world. To meet our common challenges and create a better future for all, we look to culture and civilization to play their role, which is as important as the role played by economy, science, and technology. The Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations is convened just for this purpose, as it creates a new platform for civilizations in Asia and beyond to engage in dialogue and exchanges on an equal footing to facilitate mutual learning. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, Asia is home to one of the earliest human settlements and an important cradle of human civilizations. This vast and beautiful continent covers a third of the Earth's landmass and has 2/3 of the world's population. It has more than 1,000 ethnic groups living in 47 countries. For several thousand years before the Common Era, our forefathers living along the Tigris and the Euphrates, the Indus and the Ganges, the Yellow River and the Yangtze, tilled and irrigated the land, made tools and utensils, and built homes to live in. Generation after generation, our ancestors in Asia, with their tireless endeavors, created a time-honored history and profound and rich civilizations. Our vast and fertile plains, beautiful river basins, large steppes, immense deserts, mighty rivers and oceans, and lofty mountains have nourished and enriched diverse and colorful civilizations across Asia. In building our civilizations over the course of several millennia, we, the people of Asia, have made splendid achievements. I think of literary classics such as the Book of Songs, the Analects of Confucius, the Talmud, 1001 Nights, the Rig Veda, and the Gengi Monogatari. I think of inventions such as the cuneiform script, maps, glass, Arabic numerals, papermaking, and printing techniques, and of majestic structures like the Great Wall, the Great Mosque of Mecca, Taj Mahal, and Angkor Wat. They're all invaluable assets of human civilization. Through interactions on this continent, Asian civilizations have enriched each other and written an epic of development. Our forefathers in Asia have long engaged in intercivilizational exchanges and mutual learning. The ancient trade routes, notably the Silk Road, the Tea Road, and the Spice Road, brought silk, tea, porcelain, spices, paintings, and sculpture to all corners of Asia. And they have witnessed intercivilizational dialogue in the form of trade and cultural interflow. Today, the Belt and Road Initiative, together with the Two Corridors and One Belt, the Eurasian Economic Union, and other initiatives, have greatly expanded intercivilizational exchanges and mutual learning. Cooperation among nations in science, technology, education, culture, health, and people-to-people exchanges are thriving like never before. Thanks to exchanges and mutual learning among themselves and with other civilizations in the world, Asian civilizations have grown from strength to strength. The great Asian civilizations have a special place in the annals of world civilizations. And the Asian civilizations have added to the diversity of human civilizations. Think of what Asia stands to offer in terms of religion, philosophy, ethnic code, law, literature, painting, drama, music, and even the building of towns and villages. They speak volumes for Asia's profound and proud achievements, extensive systems of social customs, immortal classics that have endured for millennia, the fine pool of exquisite art, and diverse institutions, among others. All these offer rich choices for civilizations the world over to draw on. As we review our past and look beyond Asia, we should have greater confidence in our civilizations. We may build on the rich heritage of our forefathers stay engaged with other civilizations, and increase mutual learning. By doing so, we will add new glory to Asian civilizations. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, we Asian countries are closely connected and share a natural bond of affinity. We went through similar historical trials, and we hold the same dream for the future. Going forward, we need to see where the world is going, ride on the trend of the times, and turn our people's longing for a better life into reality. We Asian people hope to see peace and stability across Asia. Upholding peace is the responsibility of every country. When peace is interrupted by conflict or war, economic growth, decent lives, social stability, and people-to-people exchanges will all be out of the question. We, the people of Asian countries, wish to live and work in content and security, free from fear. We hope that all countries will respect and trust each other, live in harmony, and interact with each other in a manner that transcends national boundaries, time and space, as well as the difference between civilizations. We should work together to safeguard peace, something that is even more precious than gold. We Asian people hope to see common prosperity in Asia. Economic growth sustains a civilization, and prosperity underpins the progress of a nation. In some parts of Asia, people, women and children in particular, are still suffering from poverty, hunger, and disease. This must change. We Asian people long for decent lives free of poverty. We hope that countries will work together to promote economic globalization and make it more open, inclusive, balanced, and beneficial to all. Doing so will enable us to eradicate poverty and backwardness that still plague people in some countries. It will make life carefree for our children and will bring happiness to all families. We Asian people hope to see an open and better connected Asia. Asia's rapid development over the past decades shows that it is important to open one's door to the outside world and ride on the trend of global economic development. If countries choose to close their doors and hide behind them, human civilizations would be cut off from each other and lose all vitality. We Asian people hope that all countries will reject self-exclusion, embrace integration, uphold openness, and work to promote policy, infrastructure, trade, financial, and people-to-people connectivity. This way, we can jointly foster a community with a shared future for both us Asians and all humanity.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, diversity spurs interaction among civilizations, which in turn promotes mutual learning and their further development. We need to promote exchanges and mutual learning among countries, nations, and cultures around the world, and strengthen popular support for jointly building a community with a shared future for both Asia and humanity as a whole. To that end, I believe it is imperative that we act in the following ways. First, we need to respect each other and treat each other as equals. All civilizations are rooted in their unique cultural environment. Each embodies the wisdom and vision of a country or nation. And each is valuable for being uniquely its own. Civilizations only vary from each other, just as human beings are different only in terms of skin color and the language used. No civilization is superior over others. The thought that one's own race and civilization are superior and the inclination to remold or replace other civilizations are just stupid. To act them out will only bring catastrophic consequences. If human civilizations are reduced to only one single color or one single model, the world would become a stereotype and too dull a place to live in. What we need is to respect each other as equals and say no to hubris and prejudice. We need to deepen understanding of the difference between one's own civilization and others and work to promote interaction, dialogue, and harmony among civilizations. In the many places I have visited around the world, what fascinates me the most is civilizations in their rich diversity. I cannot but think of the Central Asian city of Samarkand, the Luxor Temple in Egypt, Sentosa in Singapore, Wat Phra in Bangkok, and the Acropolis in Athens, to mention just a few. China is ready to work with other countries to protect Asian cultural heritage and better preserve and sustain our civilizations. Second, we need to uphold the beauty of each civilization and the diversity of civilizations in the world. Each civilization is the crystallization of human creation, and each is beautiful in its own way. The aspiration for all that is beautiful is a common pursuit of humanity that nothing can hold back. Civilizations don't have to clash with each other. What is needed are eyes to see the beauty in all civilizations. We should keep our own civilizations dynamic and create conditions for other civilizations to flourish. Together, we can make the garden of world civilizations colorful and vibrant. The beauty of a civilization finds concrete expression in the classic works of philosophy and social sciences and works of literature, music, film, and TV drama. Now, a large number of outstanding cultural works from other countries are brought into China, and a lot of fine Chinese cultural products are introduced to other countries. China is happy to launch initiatives with relevant countries to translate Asian classics both from and into Chinese and promote film and TV exchanges and cooperation in Asia. This will help people in Asia better understand and appreciate each other's cultures, and build a platform of exchange and mutual learning for the best of Asian civilizations to spread and be known to more in the world. Third, we need to stay open and inclusive and draw on each other's strengths. All living organisms in the human body must renew themselves through metabolism, otherwise life would come to an end. The same is true for civilizations. Long-term self-isolation will cause a civilization to decline, while exchanges and mutual learning will sustain its development. A civilization can flourish only through exchanges and mutual learning with other civilizations. Such exchanges and mutual learning should be reciprocal, equal-footed, diversified, and multidimensional. They should not be coercive, imposed, one-dimensional, or one-way. We need to be broad-minded and strive to remove all barriers to cultural exchanges. We need to be inclusive and always seek nourishment from other civilizations to promote the common development of Asian civilizations through exchanges and mutual learning. People are the best bridge for exchanges and mutual learning among civilizations. Closer people-to-people exchanges and mutual learning, for that matter, is a sure way to eliminate estrangement and misunderstanding and promote mutual understanding among nations. Over the years, China has, in collaboration with other countries, established many platforms and channels for cooperation in education, culture, sports, health, and other fields. China will work with other countries to step up exchanges among the youth, non-governmental organizations, subnational entities, and media organizations. Create a network of exchanges and cooperation between think tanks, explore new models of cooperation, and deliver more solid outcomes in diverse forms. Such efforts will boost exchanges and mutual learning among civilizations. Fourth, we need to advance with the times and explore new ground in development. For civilization to endure, efforts must be made to keep it alive and build on its heritage from one generation to the next. More importantly, a civilization needs to adapt itself to the changing times and break new ground. The history of world civilizations tells us that every civilization needs to advance with the times and take in the best of its age in order to develop itself. We need to come up with new ideas to add impetus and inspiration to the development of our civilizations. With these efforts, we will deliver achievements for our civilizations to transcend time and space and have a lasting appeal. To spur people's innovation and creativity, the best way is to come into contact with different civilizations, see the strengths of others, and draw upon them. Last year, Chinese tourists made over 160 million overseas trips, and more than 140 million foreign tourists visited China. These visits played an important role in promoting exchanges and mutual learning between China and the rest of the world. In this connection, China will work with other countries to implement a plan to promote tourism in Asia This will further boost economic development in Asia and deepen friendship among the Asian people.
女士们、先生们、朋友们，
Ladies and gentlemen, friends,
中华文明是亚洲文明的
being
重要
an
所
inseparable part of Asian civilizations,
自古以来
Chinese civilization
中华文
has,
明在
since
继
its
承
early
创新
days,
中不断发展
evolved and grown
在
by
应时
drawing
处
on its
变中
past
不
achievement,
断升华
exploring new ground, and
积
adapting
淀
to
着中华
changes.
民族最深沉
It
的
represents the
精神
profound
追求
pursuit of the Chinese nation
是中华民族
and
生生不
provides
息
a rich
发展
source of
壮大的
strength for its lasting
丰厚滋养
development.
中国的造纸术
Chinese inventions
火药
such as paper making,
印刷术
gunpowder, printing,
指南针
and the compass,
天文历
as
法
well as China's astronomical
哲学
knowledge,
思想
calendar system, philosophy,
民本理
and the
念
people-centered
等
doctrine
在
have
世界
all
上
had a global
影响
impact
深远
and propelled
有力
the
推动了
development
人类文
of
明
human
发展进程
civilizations.
中华文明是在同
Chinese
其他文明
civilization,
不断交
as an
流互鉴
inclusive
中
and integrated
形
whole,
成的
has become
开
what
放
it
体
is
系
today through constant interactions with other
从历史
civilizations.
上的佛
It
教
has been
宗
enriched
传
by the introduction of
一
Buddhism
如汇
and
通
the confluence of Islam and
到近代
Confucianism
以
in the
来
old
的
days, and by the
西学
introduction
东渐
of Western learning,
新文
the
化运
launch
动
of the new culture movement,
马克思主义和
and
社
the
会主义
introduction
思
of
想
Marxism and
传入中
socialism
国
in modern times.
再到改革开
All
放以
round
来
opening up of the country, starting with the
全方位对外
reform
开
and
放
opening up program, has
中华
added
文明
to its
始终
vitality today.
在兼收并蓄中历久弥新。亲人
For
善
Chinese
邻
civilization, amity
协和
and
万
good
邦
neighborliness is the principle guiding our
中华文明一
interactions
贯的
with other
处世之
countries.
道惠民利民
And to deliver
安民富民
prosperity and security to
是
the
中华
people
文明鲜明的
is the
价
overarching
值
goal.
导向。革故鼎新
To
与
keep
时
pace
俱
with the
进
times through
是中华
reform
文
and
明永恒
innovation,
的
the abiding
精神气质
commitment,
道法自然
and to
天
achieve
人合
harmony
一
between man and
是中
nature,
华文明内
the
在的
underlying
生存理
philosophy.
念。今日之中国
China
不仅
today
是中国
is
之
more
中
than the country itself.
而是亚洲之
It
中
is very much a part of
世界
Asia
之中
and the world.
未来之中国
In a time to come,
必将以更加开
China
放的姿
will
态
open its arms wider
拥抱世
to
界
embrace the world
以更有活
and
力的文明
contribute
成
the
就
dynamic achievements
贡
of
献
Chinese
世界
civilization to a better world in the future.
女士们、先生们、朋友
Ladies
们
and gentlemen, friends,
这次亚洲文明对
the
话大
Conference on
会
Dialogue of Asian Civilizations
议题广
has a
泛，
wide-ranging
内容丰
agenda,
富，希望大
and I
家
look forward to your
集
keen
思广益
perspectives
畅
and
所欲
insights.
言，提出
By putting our
真
heads
知灼见
together,
共同创造
we will
亚洲
create
文明
an even better tomorrow for civilizations in Asia and
美好未
beyond.
来。最后，
To
预
conclude,
祝
I
亚
wish
洲
this
文明对
conference
话大会
every success.
圆满成功。谢谢大
Thank
家。
you.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has just delivered a keynote speech at the opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations in Beijing. You're watching live footage from Beijing. This is the opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations.
Well, thank you, President Xi Jinping. Now, I give the floor to His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni.
Your Excellency, President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China, distinguished heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. First, on behalf of the Kingdom and people of Cambodia, and in my own name, let me extend sincere congratulations to the opening of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations. The beautiful, ancient architecture in Beijing, where the conference is held, speaks volumes about the glory of the time-honored Chinese civilization. I highly commend the initiative by President Xi 4 years ago to hold a conference on dialogue of Asian civilizations. So here, I would like to wish President Xi Jinping, heads of the delegations, and all the guests present good health and every success. This great event has brought together scholars of culture and religion from across Asia. Through such activities as cultural carnival, cultural performances, exhibition of relics, and cuisine festival, participants are able to exchange ideas and discuss the history and ways to promote friendly interactions among Asian countries and across continents. Culture, religion, and trade are the catalysts for the development of Asian countries. Cambodia is deeply influenced by Buddhism and Hinduism. Indian monks and Chinese merchants stayed here for several centuries, giving a boost to the Khmer culture and contributed to the Khmer civilization that captured the imagination of the whole world. Asian countries boast colorful cultures. Some ethnic groups have created ancient civilizations that lasted hundreds or even thousands of years. Though Asian countries may have different cultures and religions, they also have their commonalities. We Asians have similar color skin, inclusive civilizations, and profound philosophy, and live on a continent that is the source of multiple important religions. The world today faces unprecedented scientific and technological transformation and great development of social resources. At the same time, We have seen worrisome social ethnic problems and racial conflicts, which severely affected the dignity of cultures and sustainable development, or even the future of humanity. So the most pressing task is for Asia and the world to have a greater sense of responsibility about the future of mankind. We need to have greater mutual understanding and thinking through candid engagement and mutual respect, create conditions for mutual learning, and work together to promote development of Asia. In this process, religion plays an important role in enhancing ethical conduct, building a harmonious society, and upholding world peace. I highly commend the great vision put forth by President Xi Jinping to build a community with a shared future for mankind. This vision enables all countries of all sizes and development levels to enjoy a shared future with China, who values peace and is a truly admirable nation. To realize this great vision, the second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation was recently held in Beijing with great success. It has seen active participation from all partner countries who are working in unison for a shared future. All countries have benefited a great deal from Belt and Road cooperation. I am convinced that the outcomes of the conference will help promote friendly exchanges between Asian countries, deepen the mutual understanding between regional countries, and elevate our peace, friendship, and sincere cooperation. In conclusion, I wish the first Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations a great success. And I wish all of you good health and every success. Thank you.
You're watching live footage from Beijing's National Convention Center. This is the opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations. King of Cambodia, Sihamoni, has just delivered a speech.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Now, I give the floor to President Pavlopoulos of the Hellenic Republic.
Mr. President, my great friend, President of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Xi Jinping, heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, I feel greatly honored and deep emotion to participate in this iconic forum of the Asian civilizations, which is focusing on one of the most important themes related to peaceful coexistence and peaceful creation, which is the dialogue of civilizations. I should therefore like to congratulate my friend, the President of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Xi Jinping, for his initiative. It is an honor to you, Mr. President. This initiative also honors the great civilization of China, even more so when it is taking place on such an important anniversary, the 70th anniversary from the foundation of New China, and on the celebration of the road to creativity that China is following, the road to the great change, which is fully committed to the values of the great Chinese civilization. Mr. President, you are leading your great people on the way to defend the ideals, to defend justice. You are leading them to move away from poverty. You are leading your people in the direction of the value of man and of the development of human personality. And that is why I think that this forum is so important. I am here as a Greek, as a European, as somebody from the West. I am here in China, and I am fully aware, as I participate in this forum, that I am in the country of an age-old civilization, the Chinese civilization, which has made a great contribution to the world cultural heritage. This contribution is continuing and will continue in the future. But I'm also fully aware of the fact that I am here also representing the Greek civilization, an age-old civilization which, without hubris, without feelings of superiority, we believe that is the birthplace, the cradle of the ancient, of European civilization, and its emblem is the emblem of the West, the Parthenon. And our civilization, Greek civilization, and therefore the civilization of Europe, of the West, has the following characteristics. First of all, it does not maintain to be superior. It is fully aware of the fact that civilizations are equal. We do not believe, we Greeks, we do not consider that our civilization is superior to any other civilization. But what we claim is that our civilization is unique, just like every civilization must claim its unique characteristics. What is this uniqueness? Is the manner in which Greek civilization has contributed to the universal civilization. Through the free spirit, through the creation of the spirit that has taken information, taken experience and turned it into knowledge, and knowledge became wisdom, became science. This is the great contribution of the Greek civilization to the European, to the Western civilization, but also to the world civilization in general. This is what we would like to continue to contribute even today. It is the nature of the Greek civilization that makes it, our civilization, appropriate to dialogue. And from now on, I will very concisely provide some ideas. Why do I believe that Greek civilization is a civilization of dialogue. Because for us Greeks, for us Europeans, for us people of the West, just like the people of Asia and of China, a real civilization puts man at its very center. Civilization exists for the sake of man, and man creates civilization. Man creates civilization because through this creation, man is able to defend its own cause, his value and his unique character, because a real civilization respects diversity. Diversity is an element of a human civilization, of a human being. When we defend man through civilization, when we defend human diversity through civilization, then from then on, what we do is we move in an organized manner towards a dialogue among civilizations. We cannot conceive of human diversity and respect for diversity without a dialogue among civilizations. This synthesis provides value both to man and to civilization. And in this manner, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give a very resounding answer to those who dared say and who have unfortunately led to decisions that have been fatal to peace in the world. So I would like to give a resounding answer to those who maintain that there is a clash of civilizations. It is a great mistake, ladies and gentlemen, to believe that it is possible to have a clash of civilizations. Real civilizations, by their own nature, are not clashing. Real civilizations have a dialogue, open a dialogue among them. What has happened in our difficult times is that due to our own mistakes, very often the bridges of communication among our civilizations have been cut. Our communication is becoming more difficult due to objective reasons which are caused by our own mistakes. This communication needs to be restored through the dialogue of civilizations. Civilizations build bridges of communication among peoples. They do not clash on destroyed bridges. This is something that we need to understand. This is the basis, should be the basis for our own cooperation. And I would like once again to stress that for us Greece, for Europe, for the West, where we are aware of our own responsibility as regards global peace, the dialogue of civilizations is a one-way road for us to build bridges of communication with all the peoples of the world as befits man and modern democracy. This is the reality that we have to face today. And that is why I'm here to tell you that this dialogue among Asian civilizations that is now taking place here in Beijing because of your initiative, Mr. President, is for us Greeks, for us Europeans, peoples of the West. Through my presence here, the presence of the Director General of UNESCO, is not a dialogue among Asian civilizations. Here today we have a forum that is looking towards the West, towards Europe, towards Greece. And we Greeks, we Europeans, the people of the West, we are here in order to say that yes, we are present here for this initiative, for your initiative. And you look to the West, we look to the East, and therefore we cannot but meet in the course of a dialogue of civilizations. And I would like to underline this because I will conclude my presentation by using a notion as its basis, a notion that is related to the Chinese culture. the term, the notion of Tao, the notion of the way, which is a very central notion for the Chinese civilization. Just like our own civilization, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the civilization of Greece, of the West, is a way, just like your civilization, Mr. President, is a way. But there is a difference, and I would like to quote the thought of one of the greatest philosophers in the world, François Julien, who wrote his essay, Conférence sur l'efficacité in French. What is the difference between our own way, the way of the West, compared to the way of the East, of Asia, of China, the Tao? For us, people of the West, for us Greeks, the way of civilization is a way towards, leading to some direction. We are looking towards a specific direction. And I would like to use my ancestor's example, Parmenides, the ancient pre-Socratic philosopher. He used to say that the way, the thought, is a way towards truth. And the way for Christianity, which is common for us in the West, this is a way towards salvation. But for you, peoples of the East, and especially for the great Chinese civilization, Mr. President, the way, the Tao, is not a way that leads towards a specific direction. Is the way of evolution. It is the way through which the whole process is eternally renewed in a state, and through a state of harmony, leads to creation, leads to sustainable creation. Participation in developments, participation in the process allows man to reach harmony, which will in turn allow man to shape his own civilization. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, it is very simple for us to conceive that when our civilizations move along a way in different directions, they will unavoidably meet. And which is the best way for them to meet? Only through this dialogue of civilizations, which little by little, it allows them to understand that their common objective, the creations of a real civilization, are creations that show harmony, and through harmony, peaceful coexistence, and through peaceful coexistence, the joint creation, which is nothing else than the manner for man to realize his value according to his destination. I have nothing more to add. For us Greeks, the word is mostly related to thought. Therefore, I am here to listen. But once again, Mr. President, allow me to say that you should feel proud for the organization of this forum, for this initiative. Let me repeat, we Greeks, Europe, the West, we consider it not just a forum of Asian civilizations. It is a forum which, from here, from Beijing, is looking towards the West, is inviting the West to participate in this dialogue so that we can come to the end that I described earlier. So on behalf of Greece, of Europe, of the West, we are present here, just like we're going to be present in the forum which started from Greece, and we feel very proud of that, to the Forum of Civilizations, which, after Bolivia, will be organized here in China, thanks to you. We will be present here as well. And this is a forum for all civilizations, and we can show that through a dialectic synthesis of civilizations, we are able to build a future for which we can be proud. The dialogue of civilization tells us that what we people can share on the globe, on this planet, are very important. But these are things that we ought to look at from a different point of view, that we have more in common than we have things that divide us. And on this basis, we will build a better future for us and for the coming generations. Thank you very much.
Greek President Pavlopoulos has just delivered a keynote speech at the opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations. In that insightful and passionate speech, he made it very clear and what he called a resounding answer to those who believes the idea of clashes of civilizations is a great mistake. You're watching live footage from Beijing's National Convention Center. This is the opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations.
Thank you, President Pavlopoulos. Now let me give the floor to President Halima Yacob of the Republic of Singapore.
Your Excellency, President Xi Jinping, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by expressing my appreciation to China and President Xi for inviting me to speak at the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations. Amidst the rising discord, distrust, and division around the world, it is timely to exchange views on maintaining social harmony and cohesion. Many countries today have populations which are ethnically and religiously diverse and face the common challenge of uniting their populations around a shared national identity. Even nations with more homogeneous populations have to interact with and cooperate with other countries and populations, given how globalization and technology have brought countries together. Dialogue and empathy are essential to build better understanding and trust and to bridge differences. Singapore is a small country with a very diverse population. We are majority Chinese, but with sizable minority populations of Malays, Indians, and Eurasians. All the major faiths of the world, Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, are present in Singapore. It is common to see mosques, temples, and churches in Singapore standing side by side on the same street. So you could go to the mosque, to the temple, and the church because they're all on the same street at the same time. Geographically, Singapore is surrounded by neighbors that have majority non-Chinese populations. It is therefore vital for Singaporeans to live harmoniously both among ourselves and with our neighbors in the region. As a multiracial, multi-religious country, our founding principle is to treat all Singaporeans equally, regardless of race, language, or religion. Our founding fathers fought tenaciously for this principle when Singapore was originally part of the Federation of Malaysia. Eventually, the inability to settle this fundamental issue led to our separation from Malaysia and our independence in 1965. Since then, Singapore has striven to promote tolerance, harmony, respect, and mutual understanding between different races and religions. We foster cohesion through inter-ethnic and inter-religious institutions and organizations that promote interaction, understanding, and cooperation between different groups in society. We use English as our common language, not Chinese, so that no minority group is disadvantaged, and all the races can socialize and interact with ease. Our schools are racially integrated. We have deliberate rules to ensure that our public housing estates have a good racial mix and to prevent ethnic ghettos from forming. By living together, Singaporeans learn to get along with one another. All Singaporean young men do 2 years of national service together, which means generations of male Singaporeans interact with each other, learn the same values, and train together to defend our country and our ideals. Our Constitution protects the position of minority communities and ensure their representation in our political system. Recently, we amended the Constitution to ensure that minorities will regularly be elected as the President of the Republic of Singapore. We see religion as a positive factor to strengthen society, but we are a strictly secular state, and we are even-handed in our approach to all the different religions. The different faiths make a cardinal virtue of tolerance and mutual accommodation. Each group maintains their own cultural and religious practices, and we do not allow any group to impose its practices and requirements on others. We work hard to build interreligious understanding and tolerance. We have strict laws against the denigration of other faiths, and the mixing of religion and politics is prohibited. All groups have to respect other faiths, adopt a give-and-take approach, and be sensitive and restrained in proselytization. Our community groups and grassroots organizations play an important role in reaching out and bringing together people across the different faiths and the different races. For us, religious harmony will always be a work in progress. In recent years, Singaporeans of all faiths have become more fervent in their religious convictions. It is important that our people are good citizens of Singapore, at the same time that they are good Buddhists, Taoists, Christians, Muslims, or Hindus. Indeed, Singapore sees our diversity as our strength. The different backgrounds and perspectives offered by the diverse composition of our society add depth to our understanding of a fast-changing world, because the world outside is not just of one type, but of many different types. So our diversity helps us in understanding the differences in the world outside us. Our effort to integrate and harmonize the different communities has made us a more resilient society. Externally, our approach has also served us well. Cultural and language similarities, as well as familial ties, do help Singaporeans make friends with other Asian countries and to create a sense of affinity because we can understand one another well. But we conduct our relations with other countries as a Singapore nation, and not as a Chinese nation, a Malay nation, or an Indian nation. Singapore's situation is a microcosm of a larger challenge faced by the world in getting people of different religions, values, and backgrounds live together harmoniously. We are still a young country and have to find our own path forward. Next month, Singapore will host the International Conference on Cohesive Societies, under the theme Many Communities, One Shared Future, to facilitate dialogue on social harmony. We hope to use the opportunity to share our experience as well as to learn from others. And most certainly, President Xi Jinping's example in organizing this conference is a very good example of how we can conduct dialogue, both within the Asian civilizations, as well as a dialogue that reaches out to other civilizations in the world. And I do agree with most of the points that have been stated by previous speakers. This is what we need to do, understand better our own civilizations, create harmony, create respect, create tolerance, create understanding. But that does not mean that our civilization should be exclusive. It should be a civilization that can work with other civilizations, because that's the diversity that will enrich, enhance the world. Let me conclude by reciting to you the national pledge that our students recite every day in school. And this pledge that they recite, that every Singaporean going through our school system knows very well, and who also pledge them every day, is just a summary of what I've said over the last couple of minutes. And it is an example of how we place human beings at the center of everything that we do, taking into account the different strengths, the different weaknesses, but human beings, their prosperity, their well-being is the main interest that we have in Singapore. And that ability to put the human being at the center means our ability to navigate our own environment, as well as to work with others around us in order to achieve prosperity, not just for Singapore, but for the whole world as well. Let me then quote the pledge. And the pledge goes as follows: we, the citizens of Singapore, pledge ourselves as one united people, regardless of race, religion, or language, to build a democratic society based on justice and equality, so as to achieve happiness, prosperity, and progress for our nation. Thank you very much.
President of Singapore, Halimah Yacob, has just delivered a keynote speech at the opening ceremony of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations. She focused on Singapore's efforts to build a national identity that meets the multi-civilizational context of the country.
Thank you, Your Excellency, President Halimah Yacob. I now invite President Maithripala Sirisena of Sri Lanka.
ඔබ සියලු දෙනාටම සුබ උදෑසනක් කියලා මම ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා.
A very good day to all of you.
චීනයේ ජනාධිපති අතිගරු Xi Jinping,
His Excellency Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China,
ගෞරවනීය රාජ්‍ය නායකවරුනි,
Excellencies, Head of States,
සියලුම ආරාධිත අමුත්තනි,
distinguished delegates,
හිතවතුනි, මිත්‍රවරුනි,
my friends.
ආසියාවේ ශිෂ්ටාචාරය පිළිබඳව සංවාදයක් පැවැත්වෙන අවස්ථාවක්.
At this occasion of the Asian Civilization Dialogue Conference, first of all, I would like to extend President Xi Jinping, the government of China and its people, my heartfelt gratitude for the invitation extended to me. Ladies and gentlemen, the idea that a civilization cannot or should not overcome other civilizations is a commonly accepted principle by all of us. As we know, there are many different civilizations, cultures, and national identities prevalent today. And there have been many discussions and discourses about them at present. As the head of state of Sri Lanka, today I stand before you, addressing you. But even as I stand before you, Sri Lanka's civilization, Sri Lanka's identity, and the great culture that we are proud of is being we are faced with the question whether this great civilization of Sri Lanka might be affected by an unseen force. Today, Sri Lanka is faced with a difficulty. Sri Lanka has always been peaceful. Sri Lanka has been a free country, and we have not harmed any civilization or any nation. However, in the month of April, it is very unfortunate that an unseen force has caused an extremist series of explosions, as a result of which many lives were lost. Today, we are still in shock, and we are still trying to figure out answers to the many questions that circle our minds. We are a small nation, but we are very proud of our identity and our history, which dates back to over 5,000 years. It is a very long story, ladies and gentlemen. Sri Lankan civilization is built on the Buddhist civilization, which dates back 2,600 years. Buddhist philosophy, it is very vital to our history. In Sri Lanka, Sinhalese, Tamil, Muslim, Malay, Burgher communities live together in harmony. Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity are the faiths and philosophies followed by the Sri Lankan people. In human civilization and in Buddhist civilization in particular, progress of the humankind and spirituality has been given priority. We today our civilizations might be facing challenges from unseen forces, and at times like that we must all join our hands in unity, which I believe is imperative, ladies and gentlemen. There may be many different global philosophies, and we have our unique civilizations and our cultures. We have to see whether there can be any negative influence on our civilizations. China has a highly respected civilization, and we highly appreciate the example set by China in organizing this conference, which plays importance to the dialogue between civilizations. friendship and exchanges between different cultures of the world, and the voice of humanity that rises strong through this conference is indeed commendable. We all have our unique and special cultures and civilizations which deserves due recognition. Today, there are in many countries a lot of unrest prevails. There are many conflicts taking place. There are efforts by people to undermine other groups, to overcome or surpass different groups of people, which pose great challenges to our civilizations and to our cultures. At a time like that, the significance of honoring and respecting each other's civilizations, engaging in dialogue and learning from each other play highly important roles. And as Asian countries, we need to strengthen our ties and make a closer relationship with each other. If you look at the cultures and civilizations in the Asian countries, I observe that we have very close ties and very close exchanges. The cultures and civilizations of Asia are embarked on a similar path, and we look towards the same direction as far as I understand. And as Asian countries, our unity, our ties, and our harmony lies within our ability to recognize and understand each other's civilization, each other's cultures. And as different civilizations, this platform gives us the opportunity to join hands with each other and engage in dialogue. Political changes, economic changes happen all over the world at all times, but the civilization and culture precedes all of this. It is more important. Culture and civilization of any country cannot be undermined by any international or any other rules or regulations. We all have unique and independent civilizations which deserve equal recognition. At a dialogue such as the dialogue that is taking place in this forum, we must all take time to respect each other's identity and preserve our nationalism. And as Asian countries, this gathering indeed creates an honorable platform for us to do this. Today, international terrorism, religious extremism are negative aspects that we need to face and overcome. Each country deserves to live free, independent, safeguarding their national dignity, safeguarding democracy. That is what we all deserve. International terrorism, religious extremism are some of the challenges we have to face in achieving this reality. And we need to be able to eliminate international terrorism. For this purpose, I believe that international cooperation is highly important. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my greatest appreciation for the organizing of an Asian civilization dialogue at a time in which extremism and international terrorism has gripped our world. And to all the respected delegates who are present here, I appeal to you to join hands to share our shared value with the entire world, and in particular, to His Excellency Xi Jinping, I extend my appreciation. With that, I would like to wind up my speech. Thank you very much.
Sri Lanka's President Maithripala Sirisena addressed the current challenges to civilizations and cultures, also highlighted the importance of a dialogue.
Thank you, President Sirisena. I now give the floor to His Excellency Nikol Pashinyan, Prime Minister of Armenia.
President Xi Jinping, Your Excellencies, heads of state and governments, ladies and gentlemen, I am privileged for this opportunity to be here in China, the cradle of ancient civilization, and attend this important event. As I believe the beauty of our planet and the human civilization is in diversity. Diversity generates dialogue, and the dialogue leads to cultural exchange and mutual enrichment, which eventually creates conditions for progress. Armenians in Armenia and in our worldwide diaspora have historically developed a mindset that has always been open to interaction with various cultures, traditions, and religions. As noted by great German philosopher Immanuel Kant, I quote, "Among the Christian nations, Armenians have certain commercial spirit. They travel from the borders of China all the way to the coast of Guinea to carry on commerce, and know how to secure a peaceful reception by all the people they encounter." End of quote. This is why today we can encounter landmark pieces of Armenian heritage in Jerusalem and Istanbul, Tbilisi and Baku, Hong Kong and Calcutta, Singapore and Dhaka, in all major spots along the ancient Silk Road. Thus, the philosophy which lies behind today's conference is in absolute conformity with our values. We are grateful for promoting the ideas aimed at supporting mutual understanding and cooperation among the nations, and ready to support the Chinese government in its endeavors to reach this goal. Openness, dialogue, and the art of learning from each other is the path to the harmony and peace between the nations. Dear participants, as this year marks the 17th anniversary of foundation of the People's Republic of China, I would like to extend our warm congratulations to President Xi Jinping and the people of China on this historic anniversary. China has arrived at this milestone of its history with numerous achievements, impressive economic development, social and cultural progress, effective governance, as well as the energy and dedication of the Chinese people have always been the engine of the road to these historically outstanding accomplishments. Dear participants, during the last year, Armenia has undergone fundamental transformation. It sprang from a nationwide public movement and reflected the aspirations of our people to build a better future for ourselves and the generation to come. We have eradicated systemic corruption and oligarchic economy, strengthened independent judiciary, and established equal conditions for all economic players. Our ultimate goal is to build a competitive and technologically developed economy and a modern society based on the universal principles of equality, justice, and the rule of law. Today, Armenia is a dynamically developing country with a stable government, vibrant economy, and a modern and pluralistic society. At the same time, Armenia is a country with a millennia-old history. We feel rightly proud of our cultural heritage that we preserve despite all vicissitudes of our history. As we learned from our history, we reached our highest cultural achievements only when we had an uninterrupted communication and exchange with other cultures and traditions. Therefore, today, as in the past, we see the path of our progress in close interaction with all regional and global players. We are against dividing lines, artificial barriers, and closed borders, which are nonsense in the 21st century, but still maintained by our neighbors, creating security challenges and economic impediments. Armenia is engaged in bilateral and multilateral cooperation processes encompassing much of the wider region, be it the economic integration with the countries of the Eurasian Economic Union, where Armenia is one of the founding members, cooperation in the framework of the EU Eastern Partnership, or the participation in the Silk Road Economic Belt initiative that Armenia joined in 2015. Engagement in different intersecting cooperation frameworks has become one of the compatible advantages of Armenia. I want to conclude my remarks by once again expressing my sincere gratitude for inviting Armenia to this important forum and wishing the conference a complete success. Thank you for your attention.
Regional efforts to enhance communications and cultural understandings.
谢谢帕什尼扬阁下。
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Pashinyan. Now I give the floor to Madam Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO.
Excellences, Monsieur le Président Xi Jinping,
Your Excellency President Xi Jinping, Your Excellencies,
chers amis,
Heads of State,
l'UNESCO
ladies and
est
gentlemen,
fière
friends,
et heureuse de participer
UNESCO is
à
proud
ce sommet
and
historique sur le dialogue des civilisations asiatiques.
privileged to attend
Alors
this
que tant de
historic
tensions
conference.
fracturent le monde,
In today's world, we're faced still with crises. In this connection, this conference provides an opportunity of dialogue among individuals and countries and pays a deep tribute to the deep bond that all nations share.
Ces routes du dialogue rappellent la multiplicité des influences.
These paths to dialogue is how the influence of different civilizations converge, and the road of tea, of spices, is very much connected with the exchanges in the cultural sector. Homer's Odyssey, the peregrinations of the Buddha, and the journeys of the Mongolian nomads shaped what we are today. This is the perspective that we should adopt to view the diversity of humanity and consciously resist the emerging inclinations of self-isolation. And this is the way to uphold peace. The massacres in Sri Lanka and New Zealand demand that we become more united, deepen dialogue, and fight against extremism. This is the mission of UNESCO and all of its sectors, namely education, science, culture, and information. First of all, education. Without education, there would be no real dialogue. The education that we are dedicated to develop should be the education that will facilitate human dignity and dialogue, oppose extremism, and be inclusive. Education that provide equal opportunities to women and girls. In this connection, I want to pay tribute to Professor Pengli Yuan for her support in this area of fundamental importance. Without knowledge of history, or without due recognition of history, there will be no real dialogue either. This is why UNESCO has been committed to promoting cultural and scientific exchanges and research, and the application of such research along the Silk Road. For the past 30 years, 25 countries have already taken part, and the findings are also released on the website. Civilization dialogue requires the participation of young people. I know that this is very much a goal that China pursues. That is why we signed a cooperation agreement to support young researchers to carry out studies on the Silk Road. It is in line with this spirit that we have organized youth forums, youth art programs, to provide opportunities for these young people to exhibit their photos to show how they see the Silk Road. And this photo exhibition I just mentioned is ongoing as we speak today. The significance of dialogue among civilizations also lies in respecting and protecting tangible and intangible cultural heritage, which very much reflect our civilizations. And so UNESCO has been working with countries around the world, which we are very proud of. For instance, our science sector has done marvelous work in Angkor Wat to try to rehabilitate this precious Khmer heritage. And also we have adopted the initiative to revive the cultural diversity of Mosul in Iraq. And also we have listed Armenia's Kashgar and also Xi'an's terracotta warriors as World Heritage Sites. And also we have carried out a program of UNESCO Creative Cities Network so that we can let culture play a role in development and modernization. Singapore and Beijing, for instance, are cities in this program. And I think humanity's cultural expression is shaped in the long course of interaction between man and nature. So really, the development of civilization would not be possible without responding to climate change and the effect on biodiversity. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank President Xi Jinping and the Chinese side for hosting this conference. In 2014, President Xi made a speech in UNESCO headquarters Explaining China's perspective on civilizational dialogue, let me end with a famous quote of Ibn Battuta, who visited China in the 14th century. He said that traveling, it leaves you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller. So really, let's share our history. Let's value the bond that we have forged through our history. We have the same imagination, and let's share this imagination and contribute to peace together. Thank you.
That was the opening ceremony of the first Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations in Beijing. During that event, Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a keynote speech. The Director General of UNESCO and 5 world leaders have also delivered their own speeches. They both called for exchanges, mutual learning, and mutual respect among different civilizations, and calling on unity among mankind to build a better future or a community of shared future for mankind. Now, for more on the latest, let's cross live to our reporter Cui Huiyao. He's been following this event very closely at Media Center. Hello, Huiyao. Tell us the latest highlights and its reactions you've got so far.
Hi there, Pandan. At the opening address, President Xi Jinping hailed the Asian civilization, saying the continent of Asia is an important birthplace of human civilization, whether it's from religion to philosophy, from ethics to laws, from literatures to paintings, and from cities to countrysides. He says all countries in Asia should better connect with each other and take the path of openness and inclusion as opposed to exclusion. And for more on the opening ceremony, I'm now joined by Mr. Xu Qingduo, Senior Fellow at Pango Institution. So thank you, Mr. Xu, for joining us. President Xi laid out a lot of ideas about Asian civilization. He says people are the best carriers for exchange and learning, which is why we are having this conference. What are some of the biggest takeaways for you?
Well, President Xi, during his speech, I was sitting in the conference, and the spontaneous and the loud, applaud came at the point when President Xi mentioned that the thinking that one's race and civilization is somehow superior to others, that is stupid, and the behavior attempting to take over other civilizations because of that could be catastrophic. And I think a lot of people, echoes that idea, because civilizations are unique in their own ways. At the same time, they are equal, and there is a necessary point of mutual respect. The other point he made, I think, is very impressive, is really he proposed specific ideas what we are going to do to strengthen the dialogue of civilization. For example, the translation of classics from different countries, and also TV dramas, TV series, etc. So people from different civilizations, different countries can appreciate the art and the civilization from other countries. Yeah.
So in other words, not just the vague terms or general ideas, but concrete steps that all countries can take to moving forward. The second question is, we also hear the speeches from Greek president as well as Cambodia king. Do you think what they said echoes what President Xi's ideas?
Absolutely. For example, you mentioned Cambodian king, and what he mentioned in his speech, he stressed very much about mutual respect, tolerance, inclusiveness, openness. That's the same idea expressed by President Xi. And also, you see, if you listen to Singaporean President, her speech, she gives a very good example of the racial mix in basically every district of housing. That is, it doesn't matter about your own background, where you are from. Your background may be Chinese, Malay, or Indians, but you live together, and your uniqueness and your commonness is being a Singaporean. Instead of highlighting the differences, we highlight the commonness of being Singaporean citizenship. She also mentioned about this tolerance in the harmony. I think that's very much the same, very much similar to the idea proposed by President Xi Jinping. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was Mr. Xu Qingduo, Senior Fellow from Pango Institution. So indeed, the Chinese culture really emphasizes the concept of harmony, which essentially grapples with the issue of difference. How do we see differences? We can either be afraid of differences and emphasize differences, or we can actually activate difference and create diversity. I think that is the central message we're hearing today, and is why China is hosting this conference on dialogue, because there's no better way to foster connectivity and and build a shared future through dialogue and communications. That's all from us. Back to you.
Thank you very much, our reporter Chu Huiao in Beijing. Now, let's get more words from Chinese President Xi Jinping's keynote speech at the opening ceremony that has just concluded. President Xi Jinping said the event, just like the Belt and Road Initiative, is providing new ways of communication among different cultures.
To meet our common challenges and create a better future for all, we look to culture and civilization to play their role, which is as important as the role played by economy, science, and technology. The Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations is convened just for this purpose, as it creates a new platform for civilizations in Asia and beyond to engage in dialogue and exchanges on an equal footing to facilitate mutual learning. Today, the Belt and Road Initiative, together with the 2 corridors and 1 belt, the Eurasian Economic Union, and other initiatives have greatly expanded intercivilizational exchanges and mutual learning.
Well, gentlemen, let's talk about the link between the Belt and Road Initiative, a grand design, and the aim of this time's conference, dialogue among different civilizations. We know connectivity is the core value of the BRI, and one of that connectivity categories is the connectivity of people's minds. That falls right into the scope of dialogue on civilizations. What do you think the role of the BRI can play in this regard, Professor Liu?
BRI in general is a platform which is designed for all the stakeholders to pitch in to promote the common development. To be specific, the BRI as a platform could serve these functions. First of all, as we just mentioned, it will help to promote the understanding among peoples along the Silk Road now, around the world, literally. Secondly, it is the platform to help the physical connectivities of all the countries who are related to the BRI one way or the other. Thirdly, it is the connectivity to help companies to connect their markets, connect their value chains and production chains. And fourthly, it is a platform to promote the industrial cooperations, which are just shortboards for many developing, partner countries. Last but not least, it is the connectivity for the countries to sit down and share experiences in managing their national economic development, and so to speak, and which would help to converge the visions and wisdoms, which would in turn to promote the global governments, which is at the moment, kind of putting the box because of the U.S., backward, policies and strategies.
So it's not only about talk the talk, but also walk the walk. We know that the BRI, Professor Bartosz, is not only about Asia, it's about connectivity along this massive land of Eurasian continent. So from a European perspective, what do you make of this link?
Oh, I think actually we should revive our cultural memories, and I just listened very carefully to the speech of the Greek president, and it just reminded me that actually civilization is not restricted to the countries they represent today. For example, the Greeks, they met in 200 BCE. A Greco-Bactrian king met Han Dynasty envoys in the region which is now maybe Tajikistan and Xinjiang. So in this region they met for the first time. A Greek king, Greco-Bactrian king Euthydemus and the Han Dynasty envoys, they met, and I think we have to start to revive these memories and to understand that actually the Belt and Road is a new appearance with new possibilities in the context of the 21st century of the same age-old connection which we foster for thousands of years. And if we also take into consideration genetics, we have proof now that actually peoples from the West and the East, we even have exchanged genes for tens of thousands of years. So every kind of attempt to separate, or this talk of clash of civilization, is not based. It's not scientifically. It cannot be based on science. It doesn't make sense in the sense of archaeology. It doesn't make sense in what we know about the exchange of thoughts, civilizations, aesthetics, beauty, architecture, and so forth.
So it's time to rekindle that kind of ancient link.
Rekindle, revive.
By the help of modern technology and infrastructure.
Exactly. Revive our cultural memories and even make use of these cultural memories in terms of also fostering the development, because it's a vast pool of creativity. We have all these beautiful objects, all these ornaments, these styles, these tastes. We have these ancient forms of communication, languages, different thoughts from different angles, addressing the same problem from different perspectives. And if we communicate about that, we will be thriving. Asia, Eurasia, Afro-Eurasia, the world will be thriving. That's the key to success, to economic
When we
success.
talk about civilization, how can we talk about it without the insight from the Persian Gulf? And now let's cross live to Tehran to Professor Saeed Mohammad Marandi from the World Studies Department at the University of Tehran. Thank you very much for joining us. So we know that Mesopotamia culture is considered the world's earliest civilization in what's today's part of Iraq, Syria and Iran. But we've seen a lot of conflicts in that region, unfortunately, recently. And now we have to mention this looming threat from the United States and this tension between Iran and the US. So how do you think dialogue among cultures and civilizations maybe can help in easing these tensions in the region?
I think it plays an extraordinarily important role, and this initiative by President Xi, I think, comes at a very important time as well. Asia is right now facing a very unique situation, because it is both East Asia and West Asia which are home to the most ancient of civilizations, and which never had conflict in the past with one another. For example, the Persian Empire and that of the Chinese, and their interests were basically in trade. So thus we had the Silk Road, which is now being revived again by President Xi's initiative, the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative. So, but at the same time, the belief is that external forces to Asia, both in East Asia and East Asia, are creating tensions and difficulties. And the best way forward really is for Asia itself to think of ways to develop further dialogue and, as our good Chinese friends repeatedly say, harmony. And so this platform that President Xi has created, I think, is a good opportunity to find solutions to such problems.
So let's talk more about the role of the Belt and Road Initiative in this particular regard you just mentioned. Give us a sense of the momentum that the role it has played between Iran and China under the umbrella of the BRI.
Well, it is it is natural for this to be developed, because, as I said before, the Silk Road was an ancient road which brought ancient civilizations together, and the fact that President Xi is pushing for the revival and the modern version of this road, I think, is an extraordinarily important development, because what it has done is that it has created an opportunity for countries that are landlocked to extend their trade and develop their trade enormously. In the past, mostly those cities, those areas which had greater access to ports and to the seas and to oceans, they had a great chance to develop, but also they were vulnerable to external powers who could block the trade routes or impose embargoes. But fortunately, what this BRI does is that it connects all these landlocked countries with very modern and contemporary, through technologies, through highly developed networks, high-speed trains, highways, and so on, telecommunications, and thus it a huge potential for these nations and in order for them to develop their growth. And it is also much more safe. Of course, there's also the chance that external powers outside of Asia could help extremist groups, such as what they've done in our part of the world, to disrupt this. But I think that alongside the development of infrastructure, alongside Belt and Road Initiative areas, there should be increasingly increased cooperation with regards to intelligence so that external powers cannot disrupt this integration.
Thank you very much, Professor Saeed Mohammed Morandi in Tehran. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping has proposed 4 ideas to enhance connections and exchanges among civilizations. Take a listen.
First, we need to respect each other and treat each other as equals. All civilizations are rooted in their unique cultural environment. Each embodies the wisdom and vision of a country or nation. Second, we need to uphold the beauty of each civilization and the diversity of civilizations in the world. Each civilization is the crystallization of human creation, and each is beautiful in its own way. Third, we need to stay open and inclusive and draw on each other's strengths. Fourth, we need to advance with the times and explore new ground in development.
So, Professor Liu, let me start with you on your thoughts into these 4 proposals. How do you think these 4 proposals will be translated into real actions in the near future?
The 4 principles proposed by President Xi Jinping has basically set the tone for the orientation on how Asian countries and cultures could proceed with the mutual understanding, mutual cooperation, and which in turn would facilitate conditions for common development. These are the ways, I think, in today's keynote speech, which was inspiring and indeed. So I think these are the areas, countries in Asia or the cultures in Asia could further promote the cooperation. The first one is, I think, the principles have been set. The platform has been launched. The common sense are going to be reached, throughout the conference. Hopefully, the leaders would make the political decisions. I was advised that the symposium would be held through which the convergence of visions and the roadmaps would be drawn for the leaders to seek references from. So we have a saying. So the first, a good beginning is the half done. A 1,000-mile long march would start from the first step. With what? Take the first step. We have every reason to expect the sounding results and the progress.
Right. And Professor Bartosz, earlier we were talking about the 21st century concept of civilization and beyond. So from these 4 proposals and also the whole keynote speech, have you seen a rough shape of that very concept to come?
There's a very important philosophical background which resonates with the whole speech, I think, and this is what I want to say is, or how I understand it, is that we have to learn to differentiate, but in a sense that we learn to differentiate in an analytical way without judging, because we do not have an independent observer's point. We cannot judge another civilization in terms of its difference with regard to our own civilization, but we have to get to know each other, so to analyze the differences, to understand the other, to learn about the other. And I think from a philosophical perspective, and this is shared by the greatest thinkers like Wang Yangming in China to the West, to Hegel and others, in the difference itself, you will see everything that is different, you will find an underlying unity. And if you step into that unity, this underlying unity, what will you find? You will find universal love, right? Because the difference itself, that which sets the difference and which makes everything appear as a manifold in the universe, is in itself without borders.
Well,
so that's what we share. That's the human love. In the Chinese term would be ren. So
and this kind of universal love will
universal
prevail.
love. Universal
Thank you very
love
much, Professor Bartosz and Professor Liu Yufan.
You're welcome.
And CGTN has produced a series called Expressive Asia, showcasing the splendid cultures and civilizations in countries across the continent. Now let's take a look at some highlights, and with that we end this edition of special coverage on CGTN. I'm Pan Dong in Beijing. Bye for now.